What is going on, everybody? Jake back again with another Baldur's Gate 3 video. Today we are doing a tier list. Everybody loves tier lists. I love tier lists. They're a lot of fun. They spark good discussion, which I can't wait to see the good discussion from you guys in the comments down below. So please leave a comment as we go through this, and you can let me know your thoughts on some of these things. But yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm going to be ranking all the classes in Baldur's Gate 3, putting them in these here categories, and yeah, I'll rank them from best to worst, S to D. First of all, let's talk about the criteria I'm going to be using, because I think that's quite important when I'm talking about how I'm evaluating these things. First of all, is the class good as a pure? If you take all 12 levels with a single class, is that class really good? Does it hold its own as a really good class to play as? 2, is it a good option for multi-classing? If you pair this class with one of the other classes in the game, is it often very good? Does it pair with a lot of classes? When it pairs with a class, does it pair really well? Does it pair, when it pairs, does it make it one of the best builds in the game? These are all things that will influence how far up the list it goes. 3, how versatile is the class? If you pick a class and you're kind of stuck in one play style for the whole of the game, you can't really do much apart from one thing, that's not very good. I think a class should be able to do a lot of things, because that leads ultimately to just being more fun to play. And on that note, the 4th thing, is it fun to play? You know, there's a few instances in this where I'm going to rank something slightly above something else simply because it's fun to play, because I think that matters. Ultimately, this is a game, and whether it's fun to play is a very important thing. Last thing before we get into it, remember, this is my opinion. This is a very opinionated tier list. I am putting, you know, stats and stuff into it, but ultimately I'm making decisions based on my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. So first of all, let's look at Barbarian. Barbarian's the first one here. Barbarian's a fun one, right, because it is fun to play, right? Barbarian's pretty good, but it kind of pales in comparison with other melee builds in the game, and melee's the only thing that Barbarian really does. It lacks versatility. You can't really do any ranged combat with it unless you're throwing things. It doesn't multi-class very well because the main ability of Barbarian, which is Rage, it stops you from doing a lot of other things you get from other classes, like you can't cast spells with it and stuff like that. So I really think Barbarian falters a little bit, especially when compared to probably its best competitor class-wise is Fighter, being the other sort of melee-focused class. And a pure fighter just drowns Barbarian in comparison, in my opinion, in all of these categories. So I'm putting Barbarian at C. It saved itself from D because it is so fun to play. That's where Barbarian sits. Next up is Bard. I've mentioned this multiple times in previous videos, but Bard is one of my favourite classes in the game. Swords Bard, College of Swords Bard, is one of the best builds in the game, full stop. It's an amazing choice for multi-class options. It multi-classes with tons of builds. It's a charisma-based build, so you get all the benefits of having a high charisma in that you can do all the dialogue checks. It's pretty versatile, with 2 out of the 3 subclasses being amazing options for pure builds, as well as being amazing options with multi-classing as well. You can do tons of different builds with it. You can do tons of different things. You get a bunch of skill proficiencies and expertise, so if you're playing it as your primary character, you get all of that stuff. You get really fun, unique spells like Vicious Mockery. Many playstyles you can do with this. As you can tell, I'm putting it in S because it's just so good. I think if anybody disagrees with Bard going into S, you probably just haven't played a Bard, to be honest, because it really can do everything. Ranged, melee, spellcasting, support, literally everything. It can kind of do all of those things at the top tier in this game. So Bard's going in S. There's no way it's going any lower than that. Next is Cleric. Cleric's a funny one because you would expect Cleric to be one of the best support classes in the game, and it is, but it does kind of pale in comparison to Bard. So it's certainly not going in S with Bard because it's simply not as good. It is good as a pure, but honestly, Cleric is kind of at its best when it's multi-classing into things. It is quite versatile in the sense that it can be built for melee, it can be built for spellcasting, it can be built for support, depending on what it multi-classes with. And it is quite fun to play, being quite thematically unique in the sense that you are tied to a deity. You even get to pick a deity, which is a unique thing amongst many classes. So it's going in A. Alright, then we zoomed out a bit here because we're running out of space. Next is Druid. I think this is going to be a bit of a hot take, but I'm really not a fan of this class. It's really not that good as a pure build, in my opinion. You know, it lacks in good options for multi-classing because it's a wisdom-based class, and as when you look at other wisdom-based classes, you're looking at cleric, which it doesn't really have any use with multi-classing with, because cleric already does everything that druid does, but better. And plus, if you wild shape, which is kind of the best thing about being a druid, you can't do any of the cleric stuff. Same goes for the other wisdom-based class in monk, where monk really wants to multi-class with other things more than druid. And when you're a monk, you really don't need to do wild shape, which is the best thing about being a druid, because you're already so good at melee anyway. So, I really don't like druid. Sure, it's fun because you get to wild shape, but when you play a class like this and wild shaping is kind of the only thing you can do, it really becomes a one-trick pony, and it's really not very fun in the sense that you kind of end up just waiting until the next level you get to do a new, better wild shape, and that's really the only thing. I don't like the druid spell list either, stuff like that. So yeah, druid goes in D, I'm afraid, for all you druid fans out there. Also, I'll take this opportunity to ask you guys to leave a like on the video if you like watching. Like I said before, comment down below on your opinions on this so far, and again, comment on your opinions going forward about the rest of the classes, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this about Baldur's Gate 3 or any other video games that I like to play. Okay, next on the list is Fighter, and it's going straight into S. Pure Fighter is one of the best pure builds in the game, alongside Bard. It's one of only 2 class builds that get 3 attacks as one of its actions, because it gets that at level 11 as a pure fighter. It's an amazing multi-class option. You know, it's very common that builds will start with a level in fighter because you get proficiencies in everything, constitution saving throw proficiency, which is only shared with sorcerer. You get at level 2 you get action surge, which is basically useful on every class in the game. So taking 2 levels in fighter at any point, if you can spare the 2 levels, is great on any build. If you're going pure fighter and you want to do some spell casting as well, Eldritch Knight is an option. Battle Master is another subclass, is amazing. It's probably the best option because you get to do all these maneuvers and they're all really effective. Even Champion, the third multi-class, is a really good option because you can just hit. All you have to do then is hit things and get critical hits, which, you know, you may argue the versatility thing, but as a whole for the class, you get to do many different things: spellcasting, melee, all this stuff. The only thing it can't really do is support, but it's so fun to play, and it's just so good at everything else that it gets S tier. Speaking of S tier, next is Monk, which is also getting an S tier. It's hard not to put Monk in here because Monk Rogue with the Tavern Brawler feat is the best single target damage dealer in the game. Plus, even if you do a pure Monk build, it's still really good. It's a lot of fun to play because it's just so fun to watch your character just punch over and over, which is what happens when you play a Monk. Monk also benefits from some of the best itemization in the game, with tons of items in the game pretty much being exclusive buffs to monks. Like I said before, Monk is also a great multi-class option. You can multi-class with Barbarian, which is one of the only classes that Barbarian multi-classes well with, in my opinion, is Monk. Also, Rogue is an excellent multi-class with the Rogue's ability to give you 2 bonus actions, and monks can punch one more time with their bonus actions, so 2 bonus actions means 2 punches. And yeah, it's one of the best builds in the game as a multi-class with Rogue. It's a great build on its own as well. Also, the subclasses for Monk are also really good as well. You get to do some spell casting sort of things with the open hand. You get to do Battle Master style things with toppling people and stunning people and that kind of stuff. It's great. Next up is Paladin, another great class. It's going in A for me. It's similar to Cleric in the sense that when it's a pure build, it's good, but it really shines as a multi-class build. It's a charisma based build, so it multi-classes really well with a ton of other classes like Bard, Warlock, even things like Sorcerer if you want. And I rank Paladin Warlock as one of the best builds in the game because it is the other build that gets 3 attacks as an action. But it goes in A because I just don't think Paladin on its own is as good as the other classes that we've got in S so far. You know, when you're a Paladin on your own, if you're a pure Paladin, I actually think that as far as being a melee focused guy with a bit of spellcasting, you're probably better off going Fighter Eldritch Knight if that's what you want to do. So yeah, Paladin goes A because it's not quite as good as things in S, but it's fine on its own, but really good when you multi-class. Next, we're looking at Ranger, which I think is a B tier class. For me, if you build a pure Ranger, it can do a ton of things. You can do range attacks, melee attacks, spellcasting, support, but it's not quite as good at any of those things as a lot of the other classes that are above it on the tier list. You know, Cleric's a better support, so is Bard, but melee Fighter's better, and so is Monk, so is Paladin really. For ranged, Fighter's probably better, and so is Bard. However, it doesn't go any lower than this on the list because range is actually a really good choice in a lot of multi-class builds. It actually is a part of some of the best builds in the game. Multi-classing with Rogue is really good, or sort of a Gloom Stalker, assassin style build. It multi-classes really well with Bard for dual hand crossbows and doing a ton of range damage, again with Gloom Stalker. Plus, with the Beastmaster subclass, the Beast Companion you get is super fun too, and while it's not often the optimal subclass to pick, it is fun, so it doesn't go any lower than that because of those things. Next, the aforementioned Rogue. Rogue is, it was nearly in B, because it is quite bad in my opinion as a pure build. If you're a rogue level 12, it's not that great. However, rogue sees so much action as a multi-class choice that it's just plain better than ranger in my opinion. It multi-classes with ranger, bard, monk, or even cleric as part of the ultimate sort of support build that I did a video on not long ago, which there was an update for with a YouTube short that I put out, so check that out. You get so much by multi-classing into rogue with those 2 bonus actions. Plus, it's a lot of fun to play as a rogue, thanks to the plethora of skill proficiencies that you get and expertise, although bard gets those too and is a better class overall. So Rogue's going in A for me. Next, Sorcerer. Sorcerer is my pick for the pure caster to go into S tier. The great pick to go pure. Sorcerer 12, you get the incredibly powerful meta magic options which are unique to this class. And while you don't get as many spells as Wizard, you really do kind of just get all the spells that you want out of a spellcaster. And thanks to having Charisma as its main skill, it gets the benefit of all the dialogue choices and stuff like that and all the bonuses with that. And it gets the multi-class with the excellent other charisma-based classes like Warlock or Bard. On top of that, as a multi-class choice, Sorcerer also gets Constitution saving throw proficiency, which the only other class that does that is Fighter. So Sorcerer is a great pick as a multi-class option to start off with for basically any spellcasting build, because a couple levels of Sorcerer at the beginning of a build gets you the Constitution save proficiency, it gets you some meta magic options which are obviously incredible, and you get some really good spell picks right from the get-go as a Sorcerer. Plus, the Sorcerer subclasses are also really good, so Sorcerer goes into S tier for sure. Next is Warlock. Now Warlock is a funny one for me because I think a Warlock, it's kind of similar to Rogue, except it's slightly above that in the list for me. It's going right at this top of A for me, and let me tell you why. It goes in A, first of all, for a similar reason that Paladin does, in the sense that a pure Warlock isn't quite as good at a lot of the things it does as some other builds. If you want to go pure Warlock, you're probably best off just being a straight spellcaster. You don't get a lot of spell slots, but you do get the best cantrip in the game with Eldritch Blast, plus the Eldritch invocations that you get with this subclass, with this class, are incredible and make Eldritch Blast one of the best spells you can be using on a given turn, to be honest. It pumps out a ton of damage, can hit multiple targets, all that good stuff. So Eldritch Blast really is honestly the main feature of this class for me. Now, when Warlock really levels up is when you are multi-classing, right? Again, the aforementioned Paladin, Warlock Paladin is one of the best class combinations in the game. It's the only class combination other than pure fighter that gets 3 attacks, melee attacks with a single action, thanks to the Pact of the Blade Warlock feature at level 5, giving you extra attack. It stacks with the extra attack you get from other melee builds like Paladin, which is a unique thing about the Pact of the Blade extra attack feature, because usually, you know, if you take Fighter and Paladin and multiclass those extra attacks don't stack, whereas the Warlock and other melee builds do. So yeah, incredible. Plus the other bit, the bonus of that build, Eldritch Blasts, you get those as well. The Eldritch Invocations, there's some excellent things you can do with that, with Devil's Sight and Casting Darkness to get advantage on all your melee attacks. You get your spell slots back on short rests rather than long rests, so that way you get to do some great stuff with your Divine Smites. It's a wonderful build, and Warlock goes in A. It doesn't go in S because it's, as a pure, it's not quite as good as Sorcerer at spellcasting, in my opinion. Yeah, Eldritch Blasts are amazing, but Sorcerer gets to do so much more stuff. It gets so much more spell choices. You know, the Warlock spell list, while really good, is quite limited. You don't get quite as many spells as with Sorcerer. So, speaking of many spells, let's look at the other class that we've got left, the last one, and that's Wizard. Wizard's a funny one for me again. It kind of goes into a similar category as Warlock and Paladin for me, but actually for opposite reasons. So Warlock and Paladin go into A because they're not quite so good as a pure build, but when you multi-class, they're suddenly incredible. And Wizard's the opposite. It's when you can't really multi-class Wizard with much. Yeah, you can take 1 level in Wizard for spell scribing, but I don't think that's really that good, because you only get to, you know, unless you put a bunch of points into intelligence, you don't get to actually prepare that many spells on your Wizard spellbook, which is what all your scribed spells would be. And there's no other classes in the game that use intelligence as their primary skill. So you really don't want to multi-class Wizard with anything. However, a pure Wizard is really good at being a spellcaster. Is it as good as Sorcerer? Probably not. Is it as good at doing a ton of damage as Warlock is with Eldritch Blasts? Not really. However, you know, Wizard does give you all the spells in the game, gives you the most spell slots, and the Evocation subclass, where you can cast Fireball and your teammates automatically make the saving throw on all of your Evocation spells, including Fireball, is really good. I don't think it's as good as Warlock, and I definitely don't think it's as good as Sorcerer. So I'm afraid it's going in B. It's going in the top of B. I'll give it that. It's annoying because I would like to put Wizard higher, right? Because it is cool and it's fun to play, but is it as good as the classes I put in A? Probably not, right? Unfortunately. Is it better than Ranger? For sure. I mean, if anything, I would put Ranger down here with Barbarian probably, but I do think Ranger is noticeably better than Barbarian, so yeah. I mean, looking at this, I'd like to move, what do I move? I think I'm just reviewing this live. The rest of this video I prepared and scripted, but I'm looking at this now, and I'm considering moving Paladin down. Reason being is I'm thinking about what else does Paladin multiclass with? Not a lot. You know, you kind of want to multiclass Paladin with Warlock, and that's it. Like, Paladin doesn't really multiclass with anything else, so while it's really good as a multiclass with that, I can't really put it on the same tier as, I mean, at least Warlock multiclasses with multiple things. You know, multiclass out with Paladin, with With Sorcerer as well, it's a really good multi-class. Yeah, Paladin's getting moved down. Yeah, Wizard goes above it, and then the rest of the stuff in A. See, now I think it makes more sense to move Ranger down here with Barbarian. Yeah, I think this is my final list, guys. I think I'm happy with this. I'm a little bit umming and ahhing about whether Cleric belongs there, but I think it does because of how many builds multi-class with Cleric. You can multi-class Cleric with Bard to get an excellent support build. You can multi-class Cleric with Sorcerer to get an excellent damage build with the whole Tempest Cleric, Storm Sorcerer stuff. It's good as a pure. You can go Light or Life Cleric to be excellent at that stuff. A War Domain Cleric is also really good as a multi-class with things, although I do wish they'd fix the way the War Priest works. The War Priest charges for doing the extra attack. So I think Cleric belongs there. This is my final list, guys. It's quite a top-heavy list, but I think that's mostly just a testament to how good Larian is at balancing these classes. You know, the fact that there's 4 classes in S tier, and they're all unique. You know, you've got a spellcaster with Sorcerer, you've got your fighter, you've got your bard. They're all different play styles, and they're all super cool. So, good job, Larian. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoy it. Like I said multiple times already, leave a comment down below on your opinions on some of these classes. If I did some of these classes dirty, put them too low, let me know. Perhaps recommend me a build to try out, and I'll, maybe try that out on a video to change my mind. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that. There's still a tremendous amount of you guys that are not subscribed that are watching my content, so would really appreciate you guys doing that. Check out some of my other videos. As I previously mentioned, there is a Cleric Bard multi-class video that I did that is one of the best, if not the best in my opinion, support build in the game. And there's a supplemental YouTube short that I linked in the comments that I did for that to update the build because I did some testing and there was some cool stuff. So really check that one out. It's one of my favorites. There's multiple other build videos I've done. I've done a Warlock Paladin build that multi-classes with Fighter as well, which is really good. A Barbarian build that utilizes the Tiger Heart, Bloodthirst stuff, which is really cool. Did a build for Lae'zel, which is really cool. That talks about how good Pure Fighter is a lot in that, but it does multi-class with a 1-level dip into something. So yeah, all really cool stuff. Check it out. Would appreciate that a lot. The next video you guys are going to see come out on the channel is another video of my Jack of all trades tactician run, my challenge run, so keep your eyes out for that one and for any of the streams right here on YouTube as well. So other than that, enjoy your day everybody. Peace out.